Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. Ben, good morning, big winners. Indeed. John says, wow. Indeed. We're having a great morning, aren't we? Good morning, all. What a beautiful morning it is, isn't it? Isn't it nice to be the most right people in the planet about everything? Let's see what the folks over on Rumble are saying. Bitcoin making Mondays great again. Indeed, indeed. Good morning, folks. Everyone's in a great mood today. I wonder why. What's going on? What's going on? Let's see what they're saying over on Rumble. Let us see. Let us see. Well, we're live. That's good. It's working. It's working. The setup is working. Hey, from Colorado Springs, John says, welcome, welcome from Colorado Springs. Beautiful place. You got the big 14ers there, don't you? Greetings and salutations, Richard King says. Great, great, great. Here we go. Let me see what's happening over here. Moran says, good morning, freedom, self-sovereign lovers. We love it. Discovery time. We are in discovery. Florida loves the breakup, French fry says. Hit, like, and share. You don't have to follow through on share. Just hit and copy and push for the algo and the signal, Moran says. Moran, you're giving everyone great advice. We love it. We love it. We love it. Now, let us just acknowledge that, as we have said in our headline today, the sun is up and Bitcoin's running really high. We're doing great. We're doing great. And we're winning the fight for the future. So what else is there left to do except have a coffee and talk about what's new? That was my last sip of that coffee, but it's okay. I didn't have my good coffee today. I had just the normal backup. I have to go do some coffee shopping. It's not open on the weekend, so we mistimed it this week, but that's okay. You're not here to hear about my coffee updates, right? Although it is the best drink going. We love the coffee. You're here for some fake news. You're here for some Moscow time. There's some amazing Moscow time today, let me tell you. New York Post writes, excessive alcohol deaths surged 29% during the COVID pandemic. Whoops. Oh, this one's not funny. It's not funny. But we got to just tell you what the headlines are. Is the feared gang boss Barbecue now the most powerful man in Haiti? That's what the Guardian is asking, right? We don't know. We don't know. We'll see. Haiti cannibal gang are eating people they've killed on the streets as violence erupts. It's not funny. Nothing's funny about that. Nothing. We also get a few, you had the Oscars last night. You had the Oscars. So, of course, there were movie stars. And then you had Robert De Niro setting up the Oscars. He was on Bill Maher. And this is what he says. So if Trump is reelected, he says, if he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He will come looking for me. There will be things that will happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in a dictatorship. De Niro's he's gonna get picked up. And then he says he'd never play him as an actor. He says he would never play Trump as an actor because he can't see any good in him, nothing. And then Kara Swisher, she had all kinds of advice too. She went on CNN today or this weekend to give people advice on the elections and how to brainwash people. And this is what she says. All right, so she goes and she says Biden has to go in there very hard and go rapist, fascist, sexist, rapist, racist, fascist about Trump over and over again. That's going to work, Kara. It's going to work great. It's worked until now. It's going to be so good, Kara. It's going to be good, Kara. Oh, we had more from De Niro, too. He says, so they were asking him about the military occupation of the New York subway, which we've been covering all week. And he says, but I do see, the Maher asks De Niro, he says, but I do see the governor of New York is putting the National Guard on the subway. As a New Yorker, what do you think of that? What would you say if Trump had did that? He says, well, if he did it, it's for another reason. He's so good. It's too good. It's too good. The New York Times writes, Biden expresses regret for calling an undocumented immigrant an illegal, right? They're called newcomers. Remember, they're called newcomers, right? And he said that they built the country, right? He said they built the country, so he wouldn't want to insult them, right? Murderer, well, she's right. Murderers built the country. It's true. This is from the Washington Post. Ken Block, an expert hired by the Trump campaign, writes that he shot down false claim after false claim in an election that was not stolen. The Washington Post is letting you know it was not stolen, okay? Nothing stolen. Nothing. So we also had Biden got really angry because the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban came but only met Trump. And so the Hill writes, President Biden slammed former President Trump for meeting with Hungarian Premier Viktor Orban, highlighting his campaign platform is that he is running to preserve democracy. Duh. Duh. The Economist writes, this is about the State of the Union last Thursday. It says, he may have squinted at the teleprompter and swallowed some syllables, but Joe Biden showed himself to be in command of his material and the chamber in his State of the Union speech. The Economist, it's so good. We love The Economist. We love it. It's just the best. Oh, I got some really good, well, I'll get to the inflation ones in a second. We got some data ones here. These data ones are my favorite, right? Here's what we got. We got ESG, this is according to Bloomberg, ESG relies on flawed studies, even some supporters say. Academics question ESG studies that helped fuel investing boom. A growing number of scholars say research showing companies can do well by doing good relies on shaky evidence. Shaky evidence. We got more of that shaky evidence here. This is from Bloomberg again. Mapping the world's corals reveals more reefs than previously known. Oh, whoops. We didn't know. Oh, here's another one. Cherry blossoms are halfway to peak bloom and much sooner than normal. Oh no, guys. Oh no, the cherry blossoms are coming early. Everybody commit seppuku. Go commit seppuku. Move to Canada. The cherry blossoms are here early. Time to panic. Time to panic. This one's good too. Deforestation, climate change may endanger North American lizards. And the scenario they put forward is that all the forests are about to fall, and that's what's going to kill the lizards. They're not going to have forests to go into anymore, guys. So you better get to those main forests. You better get up there now because they're going to be gone. They're going to be gone. That's what they're saying. They're going to be gone. This is another one from the Washington Post from the weekend. Livestock industry co-ops academics to downplay its climate impact, study says. Now it's the livestock industry, guys. They're out to falsify all the data. Okay, it's happening. Now these are my two favorite of the day. I saved them to the end because they're the absolute best. And here we go. So this is the European Central Bank. They announced this morning that the 2021-2022 inflation surged. They have their reasons again. Due to the effects of the energy shock, a set of pandemic-related factors, and the Russia invasion of Ukraine. Chief economist Phil Lane looks at the ECB's response, but it gets better. There's one more. There's one more that brings the whole room together. It's just the best. And it turns out that this is the new reason for inflation. It just dropped in England. It's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite. All right, you ready? Vinyl revival rocks Britain's inflation basket. So now, guys, the reason there's inflation is because vinyl records are popular again, and they weren't in the inflation basket 32 years ago, but because people are buying high-priced vinyl records, that's the reason why there's inflation. I'm not kidding. This is what the actual David Milliken writes in Reuters. Vinyl records will re-enter Britain's inflation charts for the first time in 32 years this month as part of an annual shakeup of the basket of goods and services used to calculate the pace of price rises. The change in the Office for National Statistics inflation basket offers a snapshot of shifts in Britain's tastes and needs, right? And what they're saying here is because it's unfair, because no one's bought a record, according to them, in 30-something years, that it's extra inflationary, and it's going to screw up the measurements in England. It's the records. It's the fucking DJs. It's the DJs' fault. Forget Putin. Forget all these people. It's the fucking DJs. They're causing the inflation. You got to know it. It's the most important thing that happened today. It's them. It's the fucking DJs, guys. It's the DJs. The DJs, they're doing it. It's the DJs. Oh my God, it's too good. All right, so as you know, we've been taking aim at data recently and science and all the data and all the scientists and all this and that. And if you didn't know, today is the day, right? Today's the day. We're March 11th today, and it's part of our theme. Today, March 11th. Do you know what today is actually? What's going on today? It's actually an important day. It's not just that Bitcoin is hitting the all-time high. Do you remember what March 11th is? We've been tracking this day since the start of the year when it became obvious that this day would be important. Today is the day where the Bank Term Funding Program ends. This is the day where the central bank and the commercial banks can no longer collude about their balance sheet. They have to be able to, but they're going to come up with a new collusion, of course, right? So there's going to be some other rug pull out there for the banks to fuck everyone over and to exaggerate their balance sheet. But today is the day. Today is supposed to be the day. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System announced back in January that on March 11th, today, the Bank Term Funding Program, the thing that was created to stop the insolvency of the U.S. banks, but only to let Signature and Silicon Valley and the ones they didn't like fall, right? So this was one of the most important attacks ever on Bitcoin, in the sense that only the banks that were custodying Bitcoin and servicing Bitcoin companies were allowed to go boom, bust, right? So every other bank got to use these fancy accounting tricks in order to hide their balance sheet problems. But the banks that banked either, in one case, Trump, Signature was also Trump's bank. Oh yeah, we heard about the Taylor Swift one, but no. It's the records now. It's just the record. It's bigger than Taylor Swift. Okay, it's the record industry. It's all the DJs. It's all the DJs, Richard. It's not just that one. Okay. There you go. It's pretty great stuff. So, so today's the day. Now, as we're talking about accounting and data and everything that's going on, and you have all these people arguing about the budget in DC, Balaji came out and said, there's no budgeting. The budget thing is stupid. Bitcoin over budgets is what he said. And there's a reason why he said Bitcoin over budgets, because we have to get into a wholesale reworking of how we even measure the economy, of how we even determine what reality is, right? That's why we live in this simulated fiat reality that we're in, with all these experts and all these people that are supposed to tell us about inflation, about COVID, about data, about the end of the world, because people are, what was the reason that they had the livestock people are buying the studies, or was it again the cherry blossoms having too early is going to end the world and all that kind of stuff? So the idea here being that we haven't had data in a long time that's reliable. The only data we really have is what's happening in the Bitcoin blockchain. The halving is coming up. There's no way to disagree about that fact, right? It looks like it's going to be the 20th of April. We'll see. I wish it would be closer to the actual solar eclipse that'll be going through North America, but I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I thought that was a much better synchronicity sign than 420, but 420 is pretty good too. So we'll see how it goes. But going back to what Balaji said about data and accounting and how important it is, he says, and he was taking a view to the Speaker of the House talking about 3% here, 7% there. We're going to cut this, we're going to cut that. And he says, the video below is what we mean by budgeting. It's just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, because any substantive cuts would run into a buzzsaw of short-term political opposition. So long-term financial reckoning is guaranteed, hence Bitcoin, he says, right? So we've got a long-term financial reckoning that we've got to start, let's say, intellectualizing. But that's the reason why, right, you're going to get all, for example, with military budgets, right? That's the reason why none of this stuff makes sense anymore, because it's not just about military budgets, right? And the idea that we can measure American security by how much money is spent, how much fiat money is spent on security, is kind of a rock bottom, stupid way of understanding what our problems are and what our risks are, right? So, John Robb writes more or less the same things. He says, you're in trouble when the military strength of a nation isn't a measure of its effectiveness in warfare or recent results. It's based on how much is spent on it and how much that spending has grown year over year. So indeed, the security of America as sold to you by the robber barons and the brainwashers and the deep state and all these other people who don't really give a shit about your security. These are the ones who would rather put the military in charge of the New York subway, right? Which is looks like that's what they got to live with now in New York. This idea that the internet can or that the accounting can hold on, my kids are making some noise out there. That accounting can really make this big of a difference. It's not about the numbers and it's not about the data, right? It is about a wholesale change in how we measure this stuff and how we even come to these agreements. And when it comes to the military, the innovations that are happening simultaneous to what's going on by Palmer Luckey and all of these people, the new drone swarms of military combat we've seen take hold in Ukraine and Russia. What it's done is it's created a situation where we have these new asymmetric costs of violence, right? And these costs of violence are actually reshaping how we would organize governments and how we're going to budget and how we're going to measure the economy. Balaji is talking about that too. He says, if new mil-tech startups deliver 1,000x cost reductions, the result isn't necessarily saving the Pentagon. It could be disrupting the Pentagon. He says, the Houthis are a preview of a world where it might only cost $800 million to flummox an $800 billion US military. And I continue to argue that that's what's going to happen just because of the way these things are deployed. We're going to see one of these beautiful US aircraft carriers sink into the sea, and it's not going to cost someone more than a couple $1 million. And they're going to sink a $1 billion aircraft carrier. And in the end, this fiat system has to live with these new asymmetric realities about money and the cost of violence. And that's where we start getting into this situation where we're in for a big change up atop just because of this idea. You had Chamath Palihapitiya saying that exactly. He was on an interview this weekend, and he said, if you see behind the curtain and you look at who these parasites are, that's the reason why we're in for this sort of generational change right now and why we're about to see all of this stuff happen at once. He says it's, sit, watch, and play it out because of these things. But it's already playing out, right? It's already playing out. Forget about the costs of war for a second and forget about, even just the accounting and the metrics and asymmetric warfare. Just look at what happened when America weaponized the banking system and the US dollar to the extent that it did. Now, remember, Putin said in that interview with Tucker Carlson a few weeks ago that the weaponization of the US financial system was the greatest mistake America ever made in this war. And it's starting to look more and more like that. The economist James Galbraith, he's a professor at the University of Texas at Austin, said the following about how the sanctions have backfired, right? So, and you can actually go and see all these people. There's still all these predictions. Russia is falling apart. Russian economy is dead. There's all these fake news stories still getting pumped out there, right? All kinds of them. But here's what Arnaud Bertrand and writing about what Kenneth Galbraith said. This is his quote of his explanation, the best quote of the explanation of what happened with the sanctions in Russia. He says, this is a situation in which the sanctions were imposed by one important sector of the world economy, which then cut itself off from resources that it needs. And that's particularly true of Western Europe in return for cutting Russia from various things that Russia doesn't really need. So Russia doesn't really need access to Wall Street finance and collateral loans and all that shit, right? Doesn't even look like they needed access to their reserve US dollars. The US and Europe needed the Russian energy. So again, we're finding out very quickly a very important lesson in what actual inputs are into an economy. And energy is not just an input. Energy is the economy. It's the most important thing. It's why I always argue that Quebec and places like Texas can get a lot of things wrong in life. They can get a lot wrong, but it won't matter because they have energy to the extent that they have it. That's why you get stupid stuff coming out of Quebec all the time and Texas all the time. And they can make a million mistakes, right? It doesn't matter because they have energy to the extent that they get another do-over. Now, Bitcoin is going to change that somewhat, but still you get this built-in wiggle room when you have this kind of energy. A place like Korea has to go nuclear to get the same results that a place like Quebec gets just from the source of gravity, right? Falling and using all that hydro. So he goes on, second best quote. If you had to go back to the period before the introduction of sanctions, the Russian economy was very heavily colonized by Western firms. That was true in automobiles. It was true in aircraft. It was true in everything from fast food restaurants to big box stores. Western firms were present all throughout the Russian economy. A great many of them either chose to exit Russia or were pressured to exit Russia after early 2022. So on what terms did they leave? Well, they were required, if they were leaving permanently, to sell their capital equipment, their factories and so forth, to, let's say, Russian businesses, which would get a loan from Russian banks or maybe even have other sources of financing at a very favorable price for the Russians. So effectively, a lot of capital wealth, which was partly owned by the West, has been transferred to Russian ownership. And now you have an economy which is moving forward and has the advantage compared to Europe of relatively low resource costs because Russia is a great producer of resources, oil and gas and fertilizer and foodstuff and so on. And so while the Europeans are paying maybe twice what Germany was paying for energy, the Russians are not. They're paying perhaps less than they were paying before the war. So again, I characterize the effect of the sanctions, in fact, as being, in a certain respect, a gift to the Russian economy. And this is, I think, quite different from what the authors of sanctions expected. And the essence of the situation is that this would not have happened without the sanctions. You could have had the war, you could have had it gone pretty much as it has gone, but the Russian government in 2022 was in no position to force the exit of Western firms. It didn't want to, wouldn't have had, and it wouldn't have done that. It was in no position to force its oligarchs to choose between Russia and the West. It didn't wish to do that. These choices were imposed by the West, and the results were actually, in many respects, favorable to the long-term independence and development of the Russian economy. So it looks like things have gone almost exactly as some people have predicted, by saying that with Russia decoupling from the West the way that it has, it's actually built a certain resiliency that it didn't have before. The codependence of Russia and the US dollar was broken. And because the codependence was broken, they've actually modeled to other places how to extricate yourself from the CIA and the deep state and US manipulation of the financial system, the energy system, and in the end, global security as a net result. And that's why you start seeing things like what we saw this weekend with Larry Fink, right? So Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, who goes on to all the US networks, or just maybe just one. I saw a lot of videos, but I'm not sure how many different sources he went. But he went out shilling Bitcoin all weekend. And what was he shilling? Was he shilling number go up? Not exactly, right? You had BlackRock shilling something altogether different. He was shilling the idea that Bitcoin can actually give you the de-risking from such entities as the US government and other governments, for example, right? He had a few really amazing quotes there where he said, let me get them here. So he comes out and says that, where did I have my Larry Fink quotes? I was sure I had them at the closer to the top here. I was sure I had them closer to the top. Well, anyway, on the same day that you have the banks actually getting rid of their tricky accounting system, which has allowed them to stay solvent, you had BlackRock basically saying, here's the pathway to de-risk from these people. And it's a completely different outlook than we've ever had before. So you had what amounts to the fourth or fifth largest economy, if you take the AUM of BlackRock, it's the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world, coming out and saying, you might want a little gap between sovereign risk and government policy risk and just our idea of nation states and what they can affect and what they can do. At the same time, you had the, just to give you an example of why you would want to de-risk at this point, you had Hakeem Jeffries and you had John Brennan, and they were both on one of the shows this weekend, right? So John Brennan, now imagine, this is the guy that signed he did the Russia collusion hoax, right? He was the head of the CIA when that whole thing started. Then John Brennan was one of the 51 known liars that signed the letter saying the Hunter Biden laptop was fake. Now, I don't care about any of that stuff for a second. Imagine that this guy has never even paid a penalty for the lies that he's actually said to the American public. He gets put back on television. He gets put back on television. Now, this was the former head of the CIA. And here's what he's saying, right? He's saying, moving to another issue that seems also stuck in Congress right now, aid to Ukraine. It runs out ammunition. If it runs out, ammunition does in April, according to the Ukrainian government. You want to get the $95 billion package, I know, from the Senate through the House. There's no date to do that. Speaker Johnson is not committed to do that. Do you need an alternative? And can you promise Joe Biden that you made this issue number one in the State of the Union? Can you deliver on that, right? So Brennan asking the leader of the minority in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, a Democrat. Of course, we don't need an alternative when you have a comprehensive bipartisan national security bill that has come over from the Senate, and all we need to do is up or down vote in the House of Representatives, and everyone in Washington knows that it will secure at least 300 votes, if not more, so we can meet the needs of American national security. So these are people that have lied and lied and lied and have never paid a price for lying. That should tell you all you need to know about who's in charge of this stuff, right? And that should tell you all you need to know about what's going on in Haiti as well. Haiti is almost the same story, right? In the sense that we're dealing with government corruption at such a deep level that they don't care if there's cannibals running around. They literally don't care. They don't care. Their solution is throw the military on the New York subway. Who cares about the border? But why? Why is it so perverted? Why is it so broken? Right? Mike Benz has done such a great job at teaching us exactly how this machine operates. As all this stuff is going on in Haiti, he came out and retweeted one of his threads saying Hurricane Hillary has returned to Haiti. Mind you, this is happening 1 year after a team of FBI enforcement, CIA-linked mercenaries all marched into the home of Haiti's president and shot him dead. So apparently we killed the Haiti president a year ago. Why? Why? According to Mike Benz, here's his exact quote. He was assassinated by FBI informants. The president of Haiti had been trying to clean up the drug trade, doing the El Salvador Bukele model. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I didn't know any of this stuff happened in Haiti, right? Then he says, Benz keeps going on about how, it's the same thing as the Taliban was able to be successful in banning opium the minute the American military got out, right? So the minute the American military leaves, well, guess what happened, right? No more opium problem in Afghanistan. So where did the opium problem come from? He goes on to explain that the Haiti situation and the drug trade that's there is absolutely linked to CIA mercenaries. They're the same people that are running all these deep state operations, the same people like Brennan, who still has paid no price for his open and overt lying through mainstream media channels or legacy corporate media channels. That same guy, right? No accountability, nothing, right? So Ben says, it's a coincidence of all coincidences that the new president after the CIA-linked assassination of the last one was a lab-grown incubated political leader from the CIA, right? So he's the guy who's gone off running away now. Gary Webb's Dark Alliance was a tour de force, impeccably researched storytelling. My biggest gripe was his focus primarily on Nicaragua when the full story of Mexico, Haiti, Colombia, and other Operation Mongoose regions are the full picture. The fuller picture is actually better fleshed out in Paul Williams' Operation Gladio, but you might not be patient with it. It's a long story with a slow start. He says, anyway, this is why the Department of Defense, CIA, State, and Department of Homeland Security all dug in to stop Trump from building a border wall. If we lose the cartels, he says, we lose Latin America. And he says, in my opinion anyway. And this is why there's so much funny business on the Arizona border, because the Arizona border is Sinaloa territory. And it's got a multi-decade history of links to intelligence. And he says that everything goes directly from Arizona straight to Chicago and then to New York. And that the whole Chicago mafia is still a primary factor when it comes to the deep state and what's going on at the border, right? So here he says, there's all kinds of further evidence to what's going on with that. But again, if you start wondering why, there's people like Larry Fink who are out there today saying that we're trying to de-risk. I'll get the exact quotes just because they're a lot of fun. So I thought I had them in my list of stuff, but that's okay. So he says it's bigger than any government. Larry Fink said Bitcoin is bigger than any government, which of course he's right, right? He's sounding like Balaji. He's sounding like Balaji. He also says if you're a country where you're fearful of your government, and maybe this is one of the reasons China has banned it, if you're in a country where you're fearful of your future, fearful of your government, and you're frightened that your government is devaluing your currency by too many deficits, you can say this is a great potential long-term store of value. And as I said, it's digital gold, right? So this is what Larry Fink is out there saying right now. Did he say America? He doesn't need to. Why would we feel secure with the American government the way it is? There's no reason to. There's zero reason to. These Sinaloa connections, I think, are very real, right? We get things like, imagine, here's what the Epoch Times is writing today in the news, right? No, this is not an American publisher, I don't think, Epoch Times, or if it is, it's not part of the mainstream corporate media. I think it's some kind of China dissident paper, if I'm not mistaken about what the Epoch Times actually does. So here's what they're writing. Memes are shaping elections and no one is immune from them, right? So they have this article today on Pepe, on NPCs and laser eyes, on Trump and all this kind of stuff. And indeed talking about how memes are replacing all of the political dialogue. At the same time, you have our favorite, Taylor Lorenz, in the Washington Post writing the following today. She says, analysis by Taylor Lorenz. She's actually saying this, okay? On a day where information is just spilling out everywhere, where people are waking up at a rate that we've never seen before, where Bitcoin is pumping, people are de-risking. Larry Fink has got viral statements going on about Bitcoin and de-risking from the state and all this stuff. We get Taylor Lorenz saying, she actually wrote this. She said this out loud today. The nature of virality has shifted radically over the past decade as the internet is fractured into uncounted disparate algorithms, platforms, and niche community. And she says the word viral has lost its meaning. They're going with there's no such thing as viral internet anymore. That's what the Washington Post is trying to tell you here. There's no such thing as a viral internet. Now, all that happened this weekend was things went viral. Bitcoin's going viral. Memetic information transfer is starting to become the norm. You're starting to be able to pack intense amounts of energy, incredible amounts of energy in the simplest pictures. And Americans are consuming this stuff faster and faster and more and more. Bitcoiners, of course, speak in memes. The memes that back Bitcoin are exactly the memes that Larry Fink is transferring here. De-risking from the state is one of the most important memes. That the 21 million meme is usually regarded in Bitcoin as the most powerful meme. The reason it's the most powerful meme is because there'll never be more. That's it. That's it. It's out of government control. It is underlining memetically in a simple way the separation of money and state, which is what Bitcoiners have been after from the start. So as we continue to move here, we're starting to get to the point of this whole story. We're starting to get to the point of what Bitcoin is really offering. You've got Larry Fink saying it. You've got the existential risk of the US deep state continuing to spread disunity around the world and chaos and trouble, right? Meanwhile, you get Millet. So Millet now is copying. If you guys saw this, the fake news is trying to run stories on it. Millet in Argentina is now doing the Bukele gang opposition. He's actually locking up gangsters and starting the brainwashing process, right? So never forget the way Bukele dealt with the gangsters was to brainwash them, right? He's dehumanized them for sure. He's done all kinds of psychological operations on them. That's why they're in those militaristic formations, and that's why they record these videos of them running around with their heads on, like this, and bowing when they're told to bow. Of course, he used sleep deprivation. He used all kinds of things, right? And he's turned them into robots. And that's probably all you can do with them. The way I understand it is if you don't fall into formation, it's over. So it's either fall into this formation or it's done, right? There's no like trial or anything like that. So it looks like that's what they're trying to do now in Argentina. They're going to be doing the same Bukele style raids, gathering these people into these prisons where they're brainwashing them and turning them into automatons, and probably the only way to keep them alive, right? I don't know what else you could do with these people. You can't let them out, right? These guys were pretty bad folks. So Millet is doing it, and of course the fake news is trying to say, oh, now Millet is going autocratic, just like Bukele, right? He's going just like Bukele. So that's what they're trying to go with here, right? But it looks like they're going to be doing this method. Now, Bukele also this weekend talking about how he can go into Haiti and fix what's going on there, that it would be no trouble, that they don't have to leave it that way. Now, I bet you Bukele knows that just like him, there was a leader in Haiti who tried to do the same thing to fix that country. And he says it's the same story. They used to show pictures of cannibals in El Salvador. There's all kinds of people saying that, oh, we can't do it that way. It won't work, right? Here's one of the quotes that Bukele had where they were saying the exact same thing that they're saying in Argentina, that, it's not possible. It's in their nature. It's in the nature of the people in El Salvador to be crazy and killing each other all the time. But of course, we know that's not true, right? And now they're saying the same thing about Haiti. Oh, that's the way they are. They can't do it any other way. It's just an excuse. It's like saying that we can't have safe subways in New York City. Of course we can. You can't have them if you listen to these people who don't want those things. The same ones who are putting all the brainwashing into the news and are doing all this stuff. So the good news about all this, guys, is it looks like we got these guys on the run, and it looks like we're not going to give it up this time. Bitcoin is pumping at the exact correct time for all this kind of change to happen on a very, very short time frame. Remember what I've said. I've said that Bitcoin takes over the world by 2028, and that we get real close to that this time around. And it looks like my prediction and my scheduling is on point, right? You've got even people this weekend like Bill Ackman. What did I say would happen last year, right? Now people saying Bill Ackman talking about Bitcoin, he was joking. No, he wasn't. How do you know what he was thinking, right? How do we know what he was thinking? Now, he was definitely not coming out and saying Bitcoin is the greatest thing. He said, maybe I should buy it because it can destabilize this shithole system, right? It could take the whole system down. And indeed, it looks like he's starting to get wise to it. He said, thanks for, and he took Saylor up on his invitation to discuss one-on-one. So again, who did I say was going to join Bitcoin in 2024? I said that Bill Ackman would be one of them. I said Jeff Bezos is going to be another, right? I think Jeff Bezos is going to come out fairly soon with some announcement about what he's doing. So imagine the people trying to keep this thing on the tracks are just the John Brennans and the Taylor Lorenz. Well, Taylor Lorenz, I don't know. The John Brennans and the Deep State and all these folks. It's not much more than that, right? And so it looks like we have the enemy identified. It looks like Russia has already modeled for the rest of the world. El Salvador has modeled. Argentina is modeling. We're going to be able to take down almost the entirety of the Washington, D.C. swamp as of this year, I think, no matter which way it goes. I don't think it's going to make a difference whether Trump makes it or any, I don't know if he makes it there. It's looking more and more like RFK's path to victory is becoming very clear, right? I don't know if he's going to win, but honestly, there was a time when I said, well, he'll be a kingmaker. His vote counts the most. It's becoming more and more clear that I don't know what's going to happen to Trump, but the idea of RFK in the middle of this, doing what he's done the whole time. I don't care about the ETH thing, right? Just telling the truth according to what he thinks, asking the questions he's asking and all that stuff makes him more viable every single day. More viable every day, right? Now, I'll take any one of these people. I'll take any one of these people because we just need someone who's willing to pull the trigger on the Brennans and these other people to get them out of the way, get all of this deep state accountability that we need. We have to do a little bit of space dropping just to come to grips with just how much we've been manipulated over the years. But it looks like we're there. It looks like we are absolutely winning the fight. And I don't know what could stop it from here going forward. So there you go. Let's see what the folks are saying in the comments, right? Let's see where we are. Howdy. These fake news, fear porn purveyors need some good designer drugs to pull their heads into the good, true, and beautiful. They do. I prefer the rug tying the room together instead of that dumb answer. I've been collecting records since 1989, and I wish the non silly new hipsters. Tyson, Cargill, and National Beef Livestock Industry. Yeah, we don't like Tyson Foods. Aren't they just owned by China anyway? I blame Taylor Swift, not a DJ. They should also blame ugly mom jeans. They're back in style then. Mom jeans and Taylor Swift are responsible. They are. You know it. You're doing your accounting. Good morning, Daniel. Hope you're doing well. The new drones that have actually been a secret for 30 years already. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about even smaller drones, right? Asymmetrical change rate. We're doing it. We're doing it. $5,000 drone, $10 million Abrams tank. Indeed. 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 Agreed, Richard. I was more joking, making a joke about how nothing is new. Our government has 30 years behind with knowledge of such things. Indeed. 07. Bitcoin puppets are going to be the most popular PFP among DC politicians. Yeah, indeed. 72K Bitcoin. Is that what happened while I was blabbing? Amazing. Amazing. The police in Mexico work with the cartels, especially the border states. Yeah, that's what we've seen. That's what we've seen. It's the DJs. Russian gold confiscated by the Swiss. Nothing is safe. No, the Swiss also just dumped their whole reputation down the drain. Huh? The late night TV show hosts need dozens of writers combined between all of them to produce their monologues, but still can't deliver half what the Breakup and Moscow time deliver. If they only knew. I'm telling you, I don't have to write anything. They write it for me. I would be nowhere if it were not for the fake news industrial complex. I would be nowhere. Renaissance 2.0. Great show today. Nolan is sharp. Thanks, Capenta. We love it. RFK sounds as if he is more logical, common sense political policy foundation. Yeah. Again, my thoughts on the RFK candidacy continue to just be monarchism. It's monarchy. Look, to say what you want about it, it's a type of monarchy. He is a royal. He's coming in with a noblesse oblige attitude, saying, my family created most of this shit, and now we got to get us out. Remember, the fox in the henhouse was invited by his uncle. His uncle did a lot of this shit. Eisenhower was the last president in charge of the nation. Now, if you don't know the history of JFK's campaign, you're missing something. JFK lied about the missile gap. He lied that the reason why the military-industrial complex speech was there was because Nixon was saying Russia's not a threat. Don't worry about Russia. Don't worry about Russia. Nixon would do the thing that we forgot about later. He would compare Russia's economy to just California. He would say just California can destroy Russia. Like forget about all of America in the 1950s. It was a stupid comparison. So what happened was Kennedy went with the military-industrial complex. He said we have a missile gap. Missile gap was his whole campaign. That was his whole campaign. We need to build missiles because the Russians have more than us and we have to spend more on military spending than they do, and we have to do this and this and this. Not only that, he used the same Pritzker Chicago mob, the same one that is keyed in with the Sinaloa gang in order to steal the 1960 election. Now, I love my JFK. I do. I'm a fan, right? His father set up the SEC, okay? His father was behind some of that gold confiscation, right? Now, I think Kennedy tried to backtrack and fix things. I think he realized what he had done while he was president. I don't think they killed him because they liked him and he was in the bag. So I don't mean this to be a story about how Kennedy's actually a villain. I think he made practical decisions when he was running. He thought these would help him win. He ended up using them to win, and they were cashed in when they killed him. Those chips that he sold were cashed in, and they killed him. So I think he tried to scam them. I think he tried to scam them. I think he tried to reassert his presidency. It didn't work out. It didn't work out at all. So then you get Kennedy Jr., who realizes, RFK Jr., who realizes that his family helped set a lot of this shit up. He has an obligation to get involved in this. And I trust that obligation. That's what kings are supposed to do, right? They can't all get it right. And I think Kennedy, being a monarch in this way, and being someone because of what they did to his family, is going to pull the trigger on a lot of the stuff, the hard stuff. He would do it, right? So I hope no matter what, he's a part of a Trump administration in some way. Of course, he's not going to be the vice president, but he could still win, right? I think he can win. I think it's 1/3 chance of him winning. Really, I do. I don't see any other way around it. As much as I love Donald Trump, as much as I love him, the shit he went on about TikTok this weekend and the shit about the vaccines and all that, he's still a little out there right now. I don't mind the TikTok thing so much in the sense that I think him coming out and saying no TikTok ban, and you get Bannon saying he's bought off, it's not exactly that. I think he needs the money, and I think the TikTok ban isn't happening anyway. So it's sort of just like, well, why don't I just take the money from this guy, right? We know the person who's doing the TikTok thing. He's an American. His money's all locked up. I can't remember his name. People are out there talking about it. I don't know his name though. But there is a fella out there. Kellyanne Conway's involved with them, it looks like. So, it's not as innocent as it sounds. I don't think it's a true reflection of Trump's ideas about TikTok. He tried to have it sold before, and there you go. So I think in a lot of ways he's still fine, right? I don't think he's totally compromised, but if this kind of stuff keeps up, you're going to get people who just say, fuck it, RFK is the only way. I believe that, right? And we don't even know if Trump's going to make it there, frankly. I think they're not. They tried, they once they realized with Kennedy that assassinations were messy, they did the character assassination with Nixon. One of my actual Rosetta Stones for figuring out how fucked up all of this stuff is that I knew Watergate early in my life was fake news. I knew it, right? I knew someone who wrote a book about it and had pretty good insight into what was going on. And I became a huge Nixon fan, huge Nixon fan. The 1950 Vice President Nixon, who I think is actually what, if Trump wins, the 1950 Vice President Nixon to Eisenhower is going to be the model for Vivek. I mean, you're still dealing, in the case of Nixon, you are dealing with one of the most powerful, cognitive, intelligent presidents we ever had, right? And I think Vivek is in that same category of, whatever their IQ is, who knows? Very, very high, right? Very, very high. So I think both of those cases are analogous. And that's why I think that the Trump Vivek thing is kind of a 1950s do-over, right? We've got, that's where the fox came into the henhouse, and that's where we got into trouble. That's where the John Brennans got the capacity to be where they're at, which is to lie and then just keep getting invited back on television, right? Like as if they didn't lie, but they're liars. So there you go. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. Bayou. I'm from Bayou. Donc, tu parles français, là, le Bayou. Je veux aller au Bayou. J'ai pas encore visité la Louisiane dans ma vie, mais je veux. Bien sûr, je veux. We got a lot of them. We got a lot of them. All right, let me see what people are saying over on Rumble. Look at that. COVID details dumped on the web. Went to bed 68 5K, woke up 72. I'm sure that you're right in your optimism. If people are willing to lie to Congress and allow death and destruction all over the world to protect their interests, how far will they go? Well, we've seen how far. Gaddafi and Saddam sold their oil besides USD, and they met their maker. Absolutely. But you can do that now. That's what's broken. That's what's broken, I love that story of Gaddafi where he wants to camp in Central Park and they wouldn't let him, I saw what Gaddafi built. I never knew about this, by the way. Have you seen the aquifers and the rivers they built in Libya in order to terraform Libya? It's amazing. It's amazing. When Libya cools down, I want to go there for sure. I really want to go there. All right. I'm testing my French. You think you want to go to you think you're going to Louisiana? No, probably not. I don't have any plan to go soon, but I would like to go in my lifetime for sure. I want to make a pilgrimage, by the way. I am the biggest Tabasco fan on earth. There's no one who is a bigger Tabasco fan than me. I order by the crate from Avery Island. I order by the crate when I'm in America. I eat Tabasco at a pace that no one can really contemplate. Like I drink it. I can drink it. If I'm in the mood, I'll just take the bottle and go. Chick, chick, chick. I do the habanero one a lot too. I order that one from down there. I'm the absolute biggest fan of the McKillany family. I'll give you a tour of the Tabasco. The McKillany family. I don't know if you guys know this, but the same family has owned Tabasco since 1867, as old as Canada. And we don't know how much money they make. They won't tell anyone how much money. They don't need to. They're a private company. They'll sue anyone into the ground. They don't want to be aspirin or Kleenex and lose the name of Tabasco. I think they're at generation 6 now or 7 or something like that of the same family owning it. It's the same recipe it's always been. You can eat Tabasco from 100 years ago. It will be the same flavor. It's just salt, peppers. The island itself, Avery Island, is made of salt. So the peppers grow into the salt. It's from all the washout from the Mississippi River as it goes into the Caribbean. So it's super humid, which is why you get these delicious peppers. And I mean, it's the greatest sauce ever. Do you know they invented, did you guys understand this? They invented sauce as a commodity to sell and bottle and package. Now, people had sauce before, right? But no one did what they did. They had to use perfume bottles. That's why the bottle is shaped the way it is to this day. They use perfume bottles. And then, do you know how they made their whole business? Military contracts. They were part of the MREs from the very beginning. To this day, if you get a lot of MREs in America, and I used to eat a lot of MREs, that's the military ration. I don't know what the E stands for, but the military packs. I used to do a lot of hiking in Korea, and they had a lot of military overstock or whatever it's called again, when you have too much military stuff. I would buy all of the packs and I would go for hikes up in the mountains when I lived in South Korea. They were great, these ration packs. And there was always a little bit of sauce. There's always little military sauce that got it. It's the only sauce that you can get at both the president's table, the queen's table. Meal ready to eat. That's what it is. Meals ready to eat. Yeah. I thought military ration, but I guess I was wrong. Means ready to eat. Well, anyway, they're so good. They're so good. The spaghetti and all that stuff. Get it with the Tabasco sauce. I don't care for the cheese thing and the crackers and all that, but amazing stuff. So I am the biggest Tabasco fan in the world. I try other sauces when I'm down here in Barbados. The early today, no Bitcoin graffiti. It's the stupid time change. It's better for me. It's better for me because I don't like going at 9 a.m. my time. We don't have the time change here. So it's 8 a.m. my time, but that's when I prefer to do it. I like getting it done early. That's my energy is at the right level at 8 a.m. So I'm in a better energy place when I do it at this time. But no, it's not. It's standard time. Yeah, savings time is the summer. It's standard time now. But this is the last time they do it in America. My understanding is it's over this year. So that's what's going on. That's what's going on. Anyway, don't want to go too far into the Tabasco love, but I love that there's Avery Island folks around here. So I will go down in my lifetime, but it literally will be a religious pilgrimage. Like I'll go down to check out the island, eat the oysters and eat the delicious food they have and the shrimp and the stuff. And I'm not going to eat no frogs. I don't eat the frogs, but let's start a BTC mine off all that methane in Avery Island. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. So when I'm down here, I eat a little bit of the pepper sauces here. I buy all kinds of different Caribbean pepper sauces. Scotch bonnet, it's okay. It's okay. I like it. More of a mash, not as fermented. I don't know if you guys know this, but all the Tabasco is fermented for 3 years. That's why they don't need to put any emulsifiers or anything to make it homogeneous. It's naturally homogeneous. It mixes well. And that's why it also doesn't separate like other shitty sauces. If you buy a shitty sauce, you can tell right away because it will separate. They need a gum to emulsify it, xanthan usually or something else, and that's why you'll separate it. But on Tabasco, never, never, never. Just dip those frogs in Tabasco. No, I'm not doing it. I hate the frog's legs, guys. I've had them before. I know. I live in a French place. I don't care for frog's legs. They're disgusting. I like chicken wings, okay? And that's what I want with the hot sauce is the chicken wings. I get some people like the frog's legs. It's not my thing. Not my thing. But I actually use Tabasco as a dip. You understand? I have a dipping, like when I get the when I get my real like gallon jug and with a little handle on it, right? I dip it into a dipping container, and I'll use 2 or 3 dipping containers of just pure Tabasco. I just dip right in there, and then I'll drink it when I'm done, and that's how much of an addict I am. I go through the restaurant size bottle of Tabasco, so the 300 and something milliliters. It won't last me a week. I'll down that in a week easily. I bought a case of 48 habanero bottles. It arrived in August of last year. Tabasco, it's the middle size one. 48 middle size ones. I drank them all by Christmas. They're all gone. I was on my last ones as I was having Christmas dinner. That's how much I like them and how much Tabasco I eat. I have to order it from the factory. Otherwise, it's too much of a budget consideration for me. It turns into like hundreds of dollars a month on Tabasco. So I have to order, and I pay more for Tabasco than like internet. But we love it. All right, team. You're not here for Tabasco talk. Did we talk to Sailor? That guy quickly got 12,000 more in here. 12K more in there. Yeah. Just in time. Yeah. Amazing, huh? We didn't talk Sailor. No, we did not talk Sailor. We've been talking. I'll tell you what we talked about, Bitcoin Graffiti. We talked about we talked about accounting again. We talked about budgets. We talked about money. We talked about those metrics. We talked about the Russian sanctions and how big of a disaster they were, how much they backfired. And we talked about the end of the BTFP today, right? So the BTFP, so that's the accounting thing. That's the trickery they're using. So I said, you get all this bank sanctions not working, and you get the trickery ending today. March 11th is the day today where it ends. And so we talked about money. Yeah, we talked about money. And if you add that, the end of the banking accounting and the sanctions not working, and then I contrasted that with what we saw from Fink over the weekend, de-risking from governments, blah, 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 blah. So, basically everything coming together for us. Why is Haiti president getting taken out by CIA, but Bukele was allowed to clean up gangs? I don't think he was allowed, Brendan. I don't think he was allowed. I think he survived. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm not always great at, I'm good at delivering the sarcasm, but not at interpreting it sometimes. You have to make a Bitcoin channel dedicated to Tabasco. Yeah, maybe one day. You have a Bitcoin channel. You should make a channel dedicated to Tabasco. Yeah, I don't know how many people will love that one. I'm not sure everyone loves Tabasco like me. Who is the next sailor? I think it's going to be our good friend. I think it's going to be like our good friend Bezos. Yeah, I like scorpion. There is a Tabasco scorpion pepper, by the way, Richard, and I've ordered it. It's not my favorite Tabasco. It is the spiciest Tabasco there is, and I've got a few bottles of it over time, but I don't order it too much. But it is good stuff. I do like the scorpion peppers. Here I get the it's all Scotch bonnet peppers, which are good. I mean, they're good. I don't mind them. Like I said, it's more of a mash and less vinegary. But after like 2 or 3 weeks of no Tabasco, I'll have to go buy some just to get the vinegar to me. And there's certain meals that they have to have Tabasco. Restons positifs et MBTC. No, you did great. Let's do a meetup on Avery Island one day. Yeah, we got to do one on Jekyll Island first, though, because we got to do some dark voodoo magic, seance stuff to end the bad vibes that they created at that shithole. All right, team, that's all I got for today. Thanks for coming. Did I miss any stories? Is there anything out there other than Bitcoin pumping? Or is it rester et aimer? Yeah, those will both do. I'm terrible at spelling French, by the way. Jim Cramer will be the next Mike Saylor. Calling it now. All right, team. That's all I got. Peace. See you soon. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Hopefully, we're at new all time highs. We're in price discovery mode. So it's fun, 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 right?